All right, it is 5:01 and I'll call to order the March 26, 2025 Northpoint Charter School Board Governance Board. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, this is Deborah Burns, Eileen Johnson,
Here.
Anthony Padilla. I think you said here.
Yeah.
Deborah Burns here. Lisa Berenberg. Elise Hodges.
Here.
Deborah Jensen.
Here.
There's
And there's
Lisa.
Lisa.
There's Lisa.
Okay.
Okay, great. Will you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance, to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
For all.
All right, does anyone have any changes to the agenda? I didn't see any. Okay, not hearing any, could I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
This is Deborah Jensen. I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you, and a second.
This is Elise. I'll second.
Thank you, and a vote?
Eileen Johnson.
Aye.
Anthony Padilla. Deborah Burns. Aye. Lisa Berenberg.
Aye.
Elise Hodges.
Aye.
And Deborah Jensen. Great.
Does anyone
Thank you.
else have a audio feedback?
Yeah, yes.
Hear it.
I'm not sure who the last people are that just joined, but you want to hang up and join again. Or mute yourself.
Yeah, I think that might have been me. Yeah. Hang on one second. Let me just select a speaker. All right, is that any better?
I think so. Yep, totally better. Perfect.
Okay.
Oh no, I can hear it again.
Oh,
And there's an echo.
Right, yeah, feedback.
okay. So is that any better or no? Is that still bad?
Let's try it. Okay, I think it's good. All right, thank you. I just can't listen to that for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Or however long this takes, yeah. All right, public comment. We're seeking stakeholder input on the 25-26 calendar and school budget, graduate profile, graduation requirements, and Title I application.
There are no members of the public present.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure if Jillian was here to comment on something of that nature, so, okay. All right, not seeing any members of the public present, we'll move on. Does anyone have any suggested changes to the consent agenda? All right, not hearing any. Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented or as it is?
It's Anthony Padilla. I make a motion to accept the consent agenda the way it is.
Can I get a second?
This is Elise. I'll second it.
Thank you, and a vote?
Eileen Johnson.
Aye.
Anthony Padilla.
Aye.
Deborah Burns. Aye. Lisa Berenberg.
Aye.
Elise Hodges.
Aye.
Deborah Jensen.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Financial management. The finance committee met before this and we actually talked about a number of topics. We talked about the P card that we're going to talk about next. Talked about next year's budget. that we'll get an audit update. We talked about some maintenance, like we were thinking, parking lot maintenance. I'm not sure if we can talk about, Lisa had, okay, I'm sure you'll talk about that in the executive update, but yeah, possibly some good news about a state grant. What am I missing? I feel like there's two things that I'm missing.
We also
Anyway,
reviewed the check register and the bank reconciliation.
yep, the finance packet. Okay, well, there was nothing of concern, so it was an eventful discussion nonetheless. All right, the business manager report. Marie?
Good evening, Ms. Johnson and members of the GC. I'm sorry, I'm used to saying board, and that's not it. Sorry about that. I appreciate your time tonight. We did discuss several things in the finance meeting. We went over the bills and payroll and all the checks for the month, and seeing no issues, can move forward with those. We did discuss when the budget is due, and I know Lisa's going to discuss that later on, so I'll leave that to her. And we discussed the P card, which is coming up as a discussion item as well. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as what I'm going to present, there were no concerns. We did discuss the audit. There was an immaterial audit finding of a classification of funds from 1 month to the next in the fiscal year rollover, but that was immaterial. And it's good learning experience for me. So I will not have that for next year. So anyway, I stand for any questions from the board, and thank you for your time.
You're muted, Ms. Johnson.
Sorry. Thank you. Any questions for Marie?
No
All
questions.
right. Okay, the P card discussion and action. Lisa, do you want to show us that
Yes, ma'am.
comparison?
All right. So the school has been researching options for a purchasing card that would allow us to make purchases when a vendor does not accept a purchase order. Things that currently go like on my personal credit card and I get reimbursed for. And obviously that's not the best financial practice. So the recommended option is Nusenda offers a small business credit card. Nusenda is the bank that we use currently, so we don't have to establish a new account. There's no annual fee. There is an interest rate, but of course we would anticipate paying the bill off every month. All normal PO processes would be observed. We wouldn't use it just as a convenience card. It would be, everything would go through the approval process and get a PO prior to a card being used. We can have individual employee cards with set spending limits, and we have a proposed $5,000 or $10,000 credit limit. I put 5 on this slide, but I think my emails back in my latest emails with Nusenda said 10. But a small credit limit. It does require it to be linked to an individual social security number. They would use mine as the head of the school, but it does not get associated with my credit. They don't pull my credit, and I'm not liable for the school account. They would set it up under tax returns or financial audits from the school, and they can handle everything through DocuSign. So it seems to be that a pretty good option for us. And then luckily, we have K-12 who provided a ready-made purchasing and credit card policy and procedure to go along with a new credit card should the board choose to approve it. This was, of course, in your packet that I sent out, and it details what I've just explained, that we would have only authorized users that could use the card. I would suggest one for myself and likely one for Denise, so that there were 2 people that could purchase on it. Again, we would observe all purchasing requirements. then this policy just details what all that would look like. And I'm actually not going to scroll through it because I sent it in your packet for you. But that's the short and sweet of it. What questions do you have about a purchasing card? Does anybody have hesitations about getting a purchasing card?
I have.
No, I like that you,
questions.
oh, go ahead.
I just have one question. And do you feel that this would be easier for you and the school to do this? Because if it would make things better and easier for you, I'm for it.
It's really a good practice, Ms. Hodges, because right now we have things like our DocuSign account or domain renewals that won't accept a PO. So they're put on my personal credit card, and which, while I don't mind, then I get reimbursed for those. But if I were to leave the school, some of those things are set up on auto renewal, and they could still automatically go onto my personal credit card. And it's just not the best practice. I do use a rewards card, so I get a benefit from having that purchase. And so it's really cleaner to have it just under the school's name. And it actually does make it easier to answer your direct question, because then I don't have to be on the outstanding check report because I didn't cash my reimbursement check yet.
That's funny. Yeah, I appreciate you providing the policy. I like the checks and balances on it. And yeah, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't do it.
Well, then, if the board is comfortable with it, I would suggest that you vote to approve both moving forward with the purchasing card and the policy in the same action. Did you have any questions about the policy?
This, the policy was existing already that other schools are probably using.
Yes, it came from K-12 and some of their other schools.
And it said, the policy said that you would have a card authorizer that was not a card holder. And so you had talked about you and somebody else, I can't remember who you said, being the card holder. So who would be the card authorizer? Our CFO?
That would be Miss Boma
Okay.
as our business manager.
Business manager. Okay. All right. That was all.
Yeah, that way we've got all the checks and balances that I can't authorize cards for other people and spend the money. And
Good
I did
idea.
tell the finance committee that they offered us a debit card, which was terrifying. We said, please don't give us a debit card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. Unless there's any further questions or comments, can I get a motion to approve the use of a P card, the sign up of a P card, and then the policy for the P card?
This is Anthony. I motion to approve the use of a P card and to get a P card, and the policy for the P card.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
This is Deborah, excuse me. This is Deborah Jensen. I'll second that.
Thank you. And a vote?
Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Anthony Padilla,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Lisa Berenberg,
Aye.
Elise Hodges, Ellis
I,
Day. Oh, there you go.
my phone.
No, no problem. Deborah Jensen,
Aye.
thank you.
Wonderful. And the vendor contracts over 20,000, discussion action.
For the vendor, yes, for the vendor contracts, sorry about that. I have one this month, and this is a change in our current IT vendor. We've been using an outsourced IT for the last couple of years, and Mr. Kasi and I have collaborated and interviewed 4 new IT companies because we're not pleased with the level of service that's being provided by our current company. So we've met with 4 different companies and have selected PowerOn as the best option for our new IT. Sorry, I can pull that up for you if you like here. make that a little bigger. This was in your packet. It does come with a slight decrease in what we've been paying our current vendor. So it will drop down about $600 a month. This is a cost that's split 50-50 with the other school. And the new vendor would come with what we believe to be wildly increased service, including, you can see Ms. Dixon nodding in agreement there, thank you.
Wildly is a great term.
Wildly improved service. It would also include an on-site tech, 2 half-days a week. Currently, we do not have an on-site tech from our IT vendor unless there's a dire emergency. So having someone regularly on site will also help with some of the pain points we're experiencing. The vendor we've selected is both CES and an ASUS vendor. And I've called a couple of their references and spoken with other charter leaders, which, you know what, I left that part out. The vendor we're transitioning to works with charter schools. They only work with charter schools. And so they're very familiar with an educational environment and all the needs that are required there to get things set up for testing, you know, the stress at the beginning of the year to enroll students and get sign-ons working. Whereas our current vendor, we're their only school and they really struggle with some of those things. So we anticipate it being an extremely valuable and well-received change. And then it's going to cost a little bit less as well. To ensure a smooth transition, we would like to have 1 month of overlap. Our contract with the current vendor expires on June 30th. So we would like to begin our new contract on June 1st. So there's a smooth transition and they can turn over all the passwords, all the keys, make sure that there's no interruption in our service. And we did the same thing when we switched to an offsite IT initially, where we had a month of overlap just to make sure everything gets turned over smoothly. So I only brought up the I don't know what you call that, the summary list here, the top one in green. I did include in your packets the full service agreement for Power On and the full contract proposed as well. This does include the offsite storage that we're currently using. And it would be very comparable in that they would provide the offsite monitoring, all the necessary security software, cloud support, and everything else. So we just feel like it would be a very positive change. So do you have any questions for me about the new vendor or the change?
Were there any cons that you identified? Just all pros.
From this vendor, from our current vendor, actually, no, they were all pros.
Okay.
They had, there's always a con in using an offsite IT because you don't have someone present all day, every day. But because they work so consistently with other schools, you know, if they're trying to install a security kiosk or a testing kiosk for us, they've done it 14 other times at their other schools. And
Yeah.
I spoke to a couple of other charter leaders that work with this company, and they had, I'm not exaggerating, they had nothing bad to say about this group.
Okay.
So I feel very comfortable with it. Mr. Cossey is on board, and Ms. Dixon also met with us once, and we feel like they were the best choice among the companies that we interviewed.
Okay. Great. I don't have any questions. Does anybody have anything? Okay. All right. Could I get a motion to approve that change in vendor contract? Is that the right way to phrase that one?
I think so.
This is Anthony. I make a motion to approve IT vendor contract.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
This is Deborah Jensen. I'll second.
Thank you. And a vote.
Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Anthony Padilla,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Lisa Berenberg,
Aye.
Alice A. Hodges,
Aye.
Deborah.
Aye.
Thank you.
And it just occurred to me that one of our regulations is that all board members have to have their Zoom cameras on. So I saw you just put yours on. I'll say, Deborah, if you could put yours on. I know you have to mute cough, but
Yeah, my camera's not working for the record. I couldn't get it working before the meeting. I'm not in my normal
okay.
location.
Okay. All right.
My apologies.
Okay. And then the audit update. Is that Marie? Is that you?
Marie, would you like to do that or would you like me to?
Is that Lisa?
I kind of touched on it in the finance report, but the audit was released last month, and so it is made public at this point, and everything was financially stable and good. We did just have that one immaterial finding that was due to a classification crossing fiscal years. And as Lisa mentioned in the finance meeting, it was probably due to the crossover of finance managers at the time. It's not a anything to be concerned about, and it certainly won't happen this year. I can tell, guarantee. But there may be other things, but that won't be one of them. So,
All right. So that was just the one finding and a other finding.
yeah. Are there any questions
One
regarding the
other
audit?
finding.
Mr. Padilla, Ms. Jensen, I know you're on the audit committee. Was there anything you wanted to add to that?
No.
I mean, there's not much to say. Yeah,
That's good.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah. All right. The FY26 budget discussion and action, and then considering moving the date of the April meeting.
I guess that would be me as well. So we are working on the budget. At this point, we're doing the background to get it up to par for this year. We do not have numbers from the state. We do have some numbers that are probably going to go into effect. Teachers are going to be across the board, 55, 65, and 75, according to their education level. But you all already pay above that, so that's really not going to affect your budget in that regard. There is going to be probably a 4% raise across the board for non-teachers or classified staff. So that might be a minor effect in your budget. There are some staffing changes that Lisa has gone over. Nothing out of the ordinary. You're going to have a teacher that's going to be reducing her hours, and then you're going to bring on another teacher to kind of replace her. So those things aren't going to be too impactful to the budget. And as far as I know, other than that, Lisa and I have looked at the POs, we've looked at other spending, and really, Lisa's very fiscally responsible with the school, and it really is a wonderful thing, and we'll move forward. We will not have numbers until the spring budget, which isn't until the 9th through the 11th of April, that's when the actual SEG comes out, and that's when we can finalize building out the budget and present it to the board. That's why we're kind of respectfully asking for a little bit more time. That doesn't mean that you can't go ahead with your normal meeting on April the 16th, but we will not have the budget ready, so there will be need for a special meeting if it pleases you all. So the budget is due May 8th. I forgot to mention that, so.
Thank you, Marie. I'm going to jump into, so what we were proposing is we can go ahead with our normal April meeting, which is scheduled on the 16th, but then we would have to call a special meeting to approve just the budget. And I would suggest probably the week of April 28th. It could be Wednesday, April 30th, or it could be another day. Or if you don't want to call a special meeting, if that doesn't fit everyone's schedule, we could look at moving the April meeting completely to later in April to give us time to finalize the budget, and we can do everything at once. So what's your preference? What would you like to do?
And it doesn't have to be on Wednesday, whichever day works for you all.
Ms. Johnson, did you have a conflict on April 30th?
I don't. I checked my school schedule and that day, that evening's open. So I could do April 30th if we wanted to move the meeting from the 16th to the 30th.
That's,
I don't know what
fine.
everybody else's calendar looks like. That works for Anthony.
Yeah, I don't,
Sorry, this is Deborah Jensen. That would be fine for me.
I'm guessing everyone would rather move the meeting than have to meet twice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I heard Anthony and Debbie and Eileen that works. What
yeah, that
about
works for
you
me.
or Lisa?
I'll say I saw a nod, but that works for you. Okay, Lisa?
Yeah, it works. It works. I'm checking right now. I believe it works for me.
Okay.
Yes, works for me.
You know, I put it on here as sorry, was there a hesitation?
Well, I was just gonna say that is only, you know, less than a month away, or the 16th is less than a month away. So do we have enough notice to give people, right? It should be fine
That's
to
fine.
make that note. Okay. All right.
And you know, I put it on here as a discussion action item, but I don't
Oh,
know
yeah.
if we actually need a vote or official vote to move a meeting date, or if we just have to post it. I think we just have to post it. Okay.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's right.
Okay,
Well-
so no action needed on item 6F.
Right. And we'll move the date to
6FI.
April 30th.
Okay. All right. Academic performance. Ms. Dixon?
If I may jump in real quick, Ms. Johnson.
Yeah.
Ms. Boma, thank you so much. As always, you're free to hang out, but I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye, Marie.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Do not have academic data for you because we had spring break last week and Lisa and I were at Power School University, but I do have a Cognia accreditation update. We did get the preliminary accreditation, but right before spring break, we got our final accreditation report that it is a 38-page report, so I will condense it briefly for you. There are essentially 30 what they call IEQ standards that they rate us on, rating from 1 to 4, 1 being the lowest, 4 being the highest. Our overall score on those 30 IEQ standards was a 311. The Cognia Professional Network average is 296, and they have 3 accreditation levels for schools with a score less than 220, scores 220 to 300, or scores that are over 300. Ours is over 300, which basically indicates that the institution meets their expectations for accreditation and includes 1 or more areas of noteworthy practices. Our noteworthy practices, actually, hold on, did I skip one? Sorry, my thing is going crazy. Okay. The school sponsored teacher structure fosters collaborative relationships among students, families, and staff, and was an integral component of its mission. The weekly staff collaboration that monitors student progress, coupled with regular electronic and in-person communication with families, supports students in their pursuit of future-ready skills in accordance with the school's guiding principles. Some other insights from the review, from their interviews and their observations. They said that stakeholders embraced the school mission, that the participants they interviewed characterized the culture of Northpoint Charter School as inclusive, acceptive, genuine, and rich with opportunities. Stakeholders shared testimonies about personal transformative nature of the school, said leadership, staff, and learning experiences were supportive, responsive, exciting. Said the governing board showed a deep commitment to ensuring school success and growth. Pointed out the data collection and analysis that we're doing was very good and supported communication, decision-making, improvement planning, and through the survey, feedback, and interviews, Students and families shared that the flexible schedule and varied learning options enabled students to balance their formal learning experiences with other needs and interests. And the balance highlighted the success of the school's impact on fostering lifelong skills necessary for success. So those are all really positive to see. When we look at areas for improvement, the first one was adapt course content to increase students' love of learning. There was some feedback from students and families that said they appreciated the variety of courses available, but that students were unable to make choices regarding assignments within the Ingenuity platform, which they thought limited their ability to interact with the content and demonstrate understanding creatively. And the second one was to draft and implement a professional development plan that was aligned with continuous improvement goals to strengthen instruction. So they suggested that we develop a multi-year continuous improvement plan that's outside of the state documentation that we do, that will purposely and intentionally guide continuous improvement, decision-making, etc. So those are two things that we will discuss and focus on. The accreditation is valid for 6 years. In 3 years, we'll have a progress review to monitor progress on the areas of improvement that they suggested. And our next step basically is a team, share the report, share successes, discuss areas of improvement, and devise a plan to address those areas. Overall, I thought it was pretty successful. Any questions?
No.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Lisa, Executive Director report.
All right. Well, enrollment continues to hold steady. We are at 142 today. We were at 142 last month, although we will be losing a student this week due to non-attendance. The lottery was held on 3/10, and we're still waiting on a few responses coming back from students that were offered seats. For recruitment, we did hold an open house on March 1st, and we thought it was very successful. We toured 9 new families. Of those 9, all 9 completed a new student application, and 8 of the families accepted the seat. 1 family declined the seat. But that's pretty good conversion rate. We're still continuing to, thank you. We're continuing to receive new student applications, and now everyone would just be offered a tour and a seat since the lottery has already been run. So anybody else that comes in will just be added into the queue. So that's moving forward successfully. The Google ads are running. I meet bi-weekly with McKee to review results and what it's looking like. And I also get the debit reports coming, and the cost is picking up, which is great because it means that the ads are picking up and they're starting to be clicked on more and more. It's still a little early to have really good data to share with you about the conversion rate of how many of those views are resulting in clicks on the website. And how many of those are resulting in actual new student applications. But McKee is tracking that. And as we have a bit more time into it, I'll have actual hard numbers to present to you. The Meta Facebook ads, we finally were able to enable the account permissions. Turned out Michael Hamill still had ownership of them, and that's why we were struggling. But he's great. I texted him and we got it all worked out. So the Meta Facebook ads should be up and running pretty quickly here. I just had a message from Kyle that we're ready to enable payment and get those started. So that's where we are for recruitment. Our CSD site visit, I want to remind the board, is scheduled for Monday, 3/31. They do have a GC focus group. They've requested 2 or 3 members be present. If we have any more than that, I have to post for a quorum, which I can do, but I have to do in advance. So I have to do it by tomorrow. So I need to know tonight how many people are planning to attend that. They prefer an in-person group, but they can accommodate on Zoom if it's necessary. And you know what? I left my notes on that. I apologize. I left my notes at school about, I know we discussed this last month and a couple people were able to attend, but I left that at school and I don't remember who they are.
I I do have that on my calendar for 10 a.m. on the 31st.
Yep, I do too. 10:15, I thought, but maybe 10 a.m. is better.
It's
Yeah.
at 10:15, although I like Anthony's strategy.
Yeah.
So Anthony and Eileen, you're able to attend?
Mhm.
Okay. Is anyone else planning to come? Should I post for a quorum or not? Okay. That's just fine. They only need a couple of folks to speak with. And so I will let them know to expect Anthony and Eileen for that. Thank you. All right, quick staffing update. I wanted to let you know that the third quarter observation and feedback coaching cycles are 80% complete. I didn't get the last 2 teachers done before spring break, but I'll get them in. So we've been really successful in improving that throughout this year. As a professional development update, we've completed 2 sessions of the NWEA data analysis, that deep dive data coaching that we had spoken about. And teachers are already addressing some of the weak areas that were identified in reading and math. We've also completed 2 professional development sessions on our new intervention pathway with MyPath. And the math one is strongly in use right now, and we've elected to focus on the math one for now. We have a few students using the reading one as well, and we've implemented strategies at school to boost participation in that program. Also along the lines of professional development, I do plan to be taking another staff member with me to spring budget. And that's actually Miss O'Brien, who's joining us tonight. She's our special education director. And she also holds an admin license. And so she's going to be joining me at spring budget. And again, that's just to meet that cross training and making sure that multiple people know how to do things.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Last staffing update, I know that was mentioned briefly during budget, but we're very excited to welcome back Miss Reel next week. She's been out on maternity leave for the last couple of months. We're excited to have her back. And we'll have some minor staffing changes next year. We've sent out the, everyone's returned their letter that they plan to return next year. But Miss Reel intends to return in a part-time capacity so she can be at home with her family part-time as well. And so we'll be picking up another teacher to help cover that and do some cross-training for some expected retirements as well. Let's see, a couple more quick things. The federally mandated assessments, we have the SAT scheduled next week on April 2nd. And then we have the science test, the NMASR, scheduled the following day on April 3rd. We strategized about that and decided to get all the testing over in one fell swoop. And well, 2 technically, since it's 2 days, but we'll get them all tested. We've been very successful this year in meeting our participation rates, and we don't expect any difficulty there. So we're hoping to see some good growth in the reading and math this year on the SAT. And then the last bit I'd like to share with you, I want to caution you, is not official yet, but I did receive news that the school was awarded $125,000 in capital outlay funds this year. It has not been signed by the governor yet, and she can line item things, so we can't count on it yet, but that would be unusual. And so I do expect to have that funding, and that would go towards installing a PA system throughout the school that would allow us to more consistently and effectively communicate with the entire building in the event of an emergency. It'd be a hardwired PA system, whereas we currently rely on the phones, and we find that that doesn't always work as expected. So that's really good news. I was excited to get a capital outlay award. And once that's been finalized, I will, of course, let you know, but I couldn't wait to share the good news. And that's all I have tonight, unless anybody has questions.
No questions.
All right.
The FY26 cost sharing agreement, discussion and action.
Let me pull that up for you. Every year at this time we do. Hold on, sorry, I can't talk and share at the same time apparently. We do revisit our cost sharing agreement with Renaissance. There is a shift this year. I do have Mr. Cossey's signed membership reports as well to verify the percentages. And we will be moving to a 52%, or excuse me, 53% share for Northpoint and a 47% share for Renaissance. This year we're at a 48%, so that is a 5% increase for us. And that's due to declining enrollment at the other school is what's caused the shift. So here's the new numbers. It's the only change that was made in the agreement. Everything else remains as is. So it's the same one we sign every year. And it just updates that. And that's effective July 1 for the through June 30, 2026. Are there any questions about the cost share agreement?
Nope, don't have any. Can I get a motion to accept the FY26 cost sharing agreement?
This is Deborah Jensen. I'll make a motion to accept the FY26 cost sharing agreement with Renaissance Academy.
Can I have a
Anthony,
second? Oh, thank you.
Anthony Padilla, I second the motion.
And a roll call? Deborah Burns, are you there?
Yeah, sorry for the coughing fit. I'm here. Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Anthony Padilla,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Lisa Berenberg,
Aye.
LSA Hodges,
Hi.
Deborah Jensen.
Hey, I'm sorry, aye.
All right, and the gifted education plan. Lisa, get some water.
Ms. Dixon, would you maybe introduce Ms. O'Brien, please?
Oh, sorry, Miss.
Okay, thank you for fixing that.
Okay.
All right, proceed.
Yes, all right. Ms. O'Brien is our special ed director, and she will be talking about our gifted plan.
Thank you, Denise. And thank you for letting me come before you and talk a little bit about our gifted plan. Just to give you a little bit of preview, a couple of years ago, gifted education in the state of New Mexico had started to do a big shift. We were a bit antiquated, and and people at the state wanted to align with more of the national norms. And so a lot of different factors happened. And one of the things that became of it is that each school had to have a gifted plan. So I'm going to give you a pretty high level overview of that plan and answer any questions. And then if any of you want to go and dive deeper, I'm always happy to geek out over a lot of the data that goes along with it. And so part of what, just really quick, why I'm passionate about gifted education and special education is that there is need for kids, a different need for students who are gifted, just like there's a need for students who have special education. We always think of gifted education, kids who are gifted, that it's all rainbows and sunshines, and that's really not the case. What we've found through research is that they tend to have worse outcomes than our students who are not gifted, or students who are bright or intellectually in the average range. They don't tend to graduate as much. They don't go forward, and they tend to be underemployed or unemployed, and they even have worse medical outcomes. And so being able to address some of their need, that's what's really caught me when I became part of the gifted director when I was in a different district. And so part of what I want to do with a gifted education plan is to address their needs, but to also increase student enrollment, boost our graduation rates, and improve test scores, and enhance our post-school outcomes. And if we could do that, could we take that opportunity? And that's what I'm hoping that a gifted education plan can help us do. So the gifted education plan is required by the state. They want us to have these 6 different components of our demographic information, our screening, assessment and identification procedures, our programming components, our monitoring procedures, our gifted staff qualification and professional development, as well as our implementation. So I'm just going to hit a high-level overview of those. Our demographics at the beginning of the year. We have a decent chunk of our population who is already identified as gifted. Northpoint Charter School is a school where students who may not have been successful other places, they can really find their niche, and the Smart Lab is a wonderful place for a lot of our kids who really get a lot of their enrichment in that area as well. What I'm going to focus mostly today is the screening, assessment, identification procedures. One of the big changes that the state has required everyone to do is that all students have to be in the state of New Mexico have to be screened for giftedness by grade 3. And obviously we don't have students who are in grade 3, but that also means that if they have never been screened before, then they need to be screened now. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. So if we have a referral process for gifted education, it can be initiated by the parents, the teachers, or the school staff. They can contact their sponsor teacher or me to discuss the referral process. And so that's it. If you have a child and you suspect, oh my gosh, I do think they're gifted, they would contact us and then we would get the ball rolling that way. We also have a screening process for all of our students so we can meet that requirement. Right now our screening process is based off of academic performance, teacher observation, and other relevant data. And so we're looking a lot at our NWEA scores, which will point us in the direction of, do we need to do a more comprehensive evaluation? Once we look at those NWEA scores and we talk about the kids in MLSS, we move on to say, hey, I think we need to do a more comprehensive evaluation. And we can use a variety of assessment tools to evaluate that. And so Ms. Knight and myself, we did that this year, following the New Mexico Public Education Guidelines. Once that qualified, called a Gifted Advisory Team, it's a new acronym for you, a GAT, conducts the evaluation. So after the evaluation is done, then we start looking at eligibility determination. So depending on scores and other information, with another acronym called the BOE, or the body of evidence, we are able to say, yes, this student goes on, or the student they don't really qualify for gifted, but we're still going to provide them enrichment into something they call the talent pool. And that's based off some state defined criteria, and it's considering multiple factors. If a child is determined to be eligible, the gifted IEP team meeting is held, and we review the results. We determine eligibility for an IEP, and then discuss the need for gifted services. So with that gifted IEP, we tailor that document with specific goals, services, and instructional strategies, as well as some future planning. And of course, we want both student and parental involvement throughout this, so they share their insights and their child's strengths. And we do that through the meetings, emails, Google Forms, phone calls, that type of thing. All right, so our gifted services, we offer a range of some like acceleration and enrichment options with differentiated learning through various groupings. Our Smart Lab, which you're all well acquainted with, is fantastic. And students can accelerate their learning through hands-on projects, enhancing communication, problem solving, and teamwork skills. With the Edgenuity platform, we have our students do self-paced online learning opportunities. I have a kidder who's really going quickly through those, and he does a wonderful job with that. And then we have some additional opportunities, and that includes our college level courses. We have opportunities for independent studies, and we have that SAGE class that we were able to do this year, which has been fantastic. So we're going to have to do our monitoring as well. So we'll do progress monitoring. We're going to track academic, cognitive, and affective growth through it as well, and get some individual feedback. And our goal in all that is to refine all of our services so we can support a holistic growth and achievement of gifted students. So let's talk a little bit about staff qualifications and professional development. And I just want to say in a lot of districts, finding teachers who are endorsed and gifted is really difficult to come by. And so we are super blessed that we have about 20% of our staff already holds that gifted endorsement. And that ensures a specialized expertise in gifted education. We have all our teachers who have that content area specialties, and that provides subject-specific instruction for gifted learners. Not only that, we're going to encourage our teachers to pursue additional education in gifted education. And if I had my way, all of us would be. But that might be a dream for now. But we do offer that tuition reimbursement across the board, and we can do that obviously for that training in gifted education. And I just say our commitment is that we recruit passionate educators and we provide resources to maintain a highly qualified team to meet the needs of our gifted students. So we have our leadership team, which oversees and aligns our gifted education plan with school goals. We do regular communication to ensure support with gifted students. We do the student progress. We track that and we make adjustments based on the feedback. Professional development, family involvement. We have 3 times a year we meet with families just for gifted, and then additionally individually as they need it. And then we just review. The plan is to review this as we go along and make sure that it's meeting the needs of our kids. Are there any questions that I can answer?
That was great. Thank you.
Was a very nicely condensed presentation from that super long gifted plan, Miss O'Brien. Thank you.
Yeah, it was about 40 pages, so I really did my best.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I have a question. So there are meetings with the family and the student 3 times. I'm wondering what sets the gifted program, other than those meetings, what is different than a general education student? Because those same courses are, it's the same coursework, the Edgenuity, it's the same, the same sponsor teachers, the same access to going to these CNM or UNM courses. So I'm just wondering.
That is a fabulous question. I love that question. So I think what really differentiates it between the gifted students and the students who are not identified as gifted is that gifted IEP. And through that mechanism, it's a couple of different things. Number one, we get funding based off service level, where we don't get funding for students who, extra funding for students who are not in that gifted plan. So I think that does us a little bit of help. And that's, and I'm not, that's funding that can be used for a couple of different things to support gifted kids. And so in my head, although I haven't done the budget parts yet, I think about our smart lab and everything that entails. I think about Miss Knight and her new Sage gifted class and everything that's gone on with that and the different bits and pieces that go along with it. So I think from a funding perspective as a school, that it's important for us to know about that. I think for the student though, what's different for them is that we end up having these meetings where it's a collaborative time where we talk about, okay, here's what the giftedness is. And we can go into depth about, all right, here's where you're really good at and what you're really doing good. But we talk about how kids have these splinter skills. And so you can be gifted and be really advanced in one area, but really bad in another area. And that kind of shift, that's really a difficult place for kids to be in. And that's why they have such poor outcomes compared to average kids is who are, making those growth at, kind of the same things. And so you might see it in your own children who might have some gifted tendencies, but also might have, other challenges in other areas. You can see that kind of thing. And so coming together to be able to talk about that and to talk about, okay, well, here's where we're going to work on advancement and here's our goals and what we're going to do. But let's talk about, okay, where is your, areas where we might need to help support you. And we wrap that into a career readiness type of situation, career readiness goal. And then that is what Miss Knight spends a great deal of her time supporting those students, working with that as their case manager. And so I think that is a huge difference. And then because of that, we were able to have the SAGE class where she's able to take those kids who are gifted and to be able to work with them on gifted projects in different areas of need. And we've been fortunate in our school to be able to allow our students who are the talent pool, most of our students who are in the talent pool, to get enrichment with that as well. And I have to tell you that most other districts don't do this. We're pretty unique in what we're doing. And I think that can absolutely attract other students who are gifted, who are not getting their needs met at the high school level. And in APS, in our RPS Rio Rancho, where I was before, and director of gifted while I was there, we're not meeting the needs of our high school students who are gifted. I think I went a little bit further along with that, so I'm sorry about that.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there specific criteria that you're looking at, or is it just like a percentage above, a percentage of kids?
So yeah, so it's definitely it's a criteria. So our kiddos will our first thing we do is you can be gifted in a lot of different areas. You can be academically gifted, creatively gifted, but they also added some new things like leadership and artistic giftedness as well, which is new for New Mexico. And so the criteria based on each are going to be a little bit different, but basically what they're looking at more or less is that kids are in like the 95th percentile of those areas. And so we do have some standardized tests that will test those different things. There's not a huge lot of standardized tests for like artistry and leadership we don't have across the state. We don't have in my opinion, a really solid stance on that. So I think, some of that's our state's going to be learning as we grow. And I'm part of a community of practice that talks a lot about this.
Can I ask you a question about that? It seems like I might not be understanding this correctly, but it seems like APS changed their screening procedures for giftedness. And that
they would have been required to as well. Yeah.
And the end result is that more kids qualify for giftedness. And so I'm wondering if that will also apply to students I'm talking the young kids at the elementary school. It seems like quite a number of kids are now in the gifted program. And they don't have the all-day gifted, it's those pull-out pop classes. And so I'm wondering, sorry, sorry, I have a barking dog here. So I'm wondering if that also will be manifest in the students who are at Northpoint, that same criterion then would apply to them, where that would bring in more funding. I think funding is enough of an, I think people who qualify for that for giftedness don't necessarily see a huge reason to follow through with that because, they can go to these other classes, but it might be good enough just to talk to them and say, hey, it's beneficial to the school if you do that. And in the end, it will help your student, but.
Right, and it'll help all students as well.
Yes. It'll lift everybody together. So anyway.
For sure. And just to answer your question, as a state, we were under identifying students across the board. And I don't have APS's numbers exactly, but my assumption would be that they were also involved with that under identification. And so it makes sense that there is an increased identification. And because we are fed into by APS and the surrounding areas, it makes sense that our numbers will also increase, that we'll have kids who were not identified that should have been.
So you have a whole policy worked out? Okay.
Yeah,
the
yes.
full plan was included in your packet as well.
Was it? Okay, sorry. I'll need to go look at that then. Okay.
Yeah, and I think and the idea is to be, equitable on it. We don't, we did some testing of some kids this year, and not everybody really met that criteria. And we don't want to just like, oh, well, it's going to give us money. Let's go ahead and add in like extra kids because that's just not ethical. But we also want to make sure that those kids get enrichment because they can still, they're in the talent pool, and we want to make sure that they get what they need.
Certainly, but it doesn't hurt to, if they're already qualified for that, to offer every available help to them and, have
Absolutely.
supports and different avenues for growth along with benefiting the school. I mean, that can be a byproduct of that
Right.
process, which is, that's
100%. And we grew a little bit of our gifted population because we had students who had been identified as gifted, but the school that they came from was not providing gifted services. And so it was dropped. And so that was quite easy just to resume with their previous identification too.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any other questions or discussion points, or ready for a vote? Okay. Could I get what is the word I'm looking for?
Motion.
Motion. Thank you. It was gone. Can I get a motion to approve the gifted education plan as presented?
This is Deborah Jensen. I'll make a motion to approve the gifted, the gifted education plan is presented.
Thank you. And a second?
This is Anthony. I second the motion.
And a vote?
Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Anthony Padilla,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Lisa Berenberg,
Aye.
Alice A. Hodges, I know she's coming.
Just trying.
Aye.
Thank you. Deborah Jensen,
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Secretary elections. So, unfortunately, Ms. Burns, has to resign as of the end of this month, and we'll miss her immensely.
Yes.
But, we need to, have somebody step up and be a replacement for her in the secretary role. Does anyone want to volunteer? Don't all step up at once. Oh, yes. Sorry, I should have dismissed Miss O'Brien or said she could leave. Yeah.
What exactly does it entail? Because I'm already bad about checking my school email. But what all?
Deborah, do you want to share what you do?
sure. Basically, and I'm happy to help whoever takes over the secretary role. All you do is Lisa will send you a draft minutes form separately from the board packet. And what I do is I go in a few minutes before and just fill in some of the boilerplate things before the meeting. And then throughout the meeting, you don't have to do it this way. There's all types of ways to take meeting minutes, but I just type up the minutes through the meeting, and because they're very brief and summary about our activity, our discussions. And then I go over it for a few minutes after the board, meeting is over to get it in sort of a final draft form and send it to Lisa. And she reviews it to make sure, I got the acronyms right. And sometimes these tests and scores and all that stuff are too quick for me to pick up. So I leave some blanks and she fills those in. And that's pretty much it. And then I think you sign the minutes, the final approved minutes, when they're approved by the board. And that's really all you do.
You can either type during the meeting or you can handwrite
right,
and then type later. But
right. this was what was easiest for me.
Do you have to go to the finance committee also, or
That's that's a separate
separate?
responsibility.
Okay, you just do the governing council monthly meetings.
Yep.
And any special meetings. You do the minutes for any board meeting.
Board meeting, okay.
Don't worry, if you don't volunteer this year, you could always volunteer next year.
Well, Mrs.
So-
Jensen was already board secretary for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. So I feel like it was
Yeah.
unfair to draft her again.
Right. And Anthony's already vice president.
I'll do it this year if you don't make me do the financial piece.
Okay, yeah, that's separate.
Cool. There we go.
Okay.
I 50-50'd with somebody.
Yep. Okay. Can I have, oh wait, do we have to make a motion for that, right? Yes, okay. Can I have a motion to elect Ms. Hodges as the secretary of the GC?
This is Deborah Jensen. I'll make a motion to not nominate.
Nominate?
Nominate?
Elect.
Elect LSA Hodges as the governing council secretary.
Can I get a second
It's Anthony, I second the motion.
and a vote?
Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Anthony Padilla,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Lisa Berenberg,
Aye.
LSA Hodges,
Aye.
Deborah Jensen.
Aye.
Motion passed. Congratulations.
Yay.
So then the first meeting that you'll do that is
Really
the April 30th meeting.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I'll
And
get with
then,
you before, I'm sorry, I'll get with you before then, Ms. Hodges, and like Ms. Burns said, I send you a template and I can help fill in any blanks after the meeting as well.
I also
Sounds
think
good.
there are a couple of, I think there are a couple of things that have to be, minimal things that need to be entered in the notes. Like the date, the time, who's here, and just, and I think it's important to put the balance for the budget, for the bank balance. But I think it's pretty minimal, everything that needs to be actually included. Wouldn't you say, Deborah Burns?
Yes. Yes, we do. Am I on? Yes. We do a very high level summary, and I glanced at other schools like Renaissance. They have nothing in their minutes. We at least say that we're doing things, in our minutes, but it's very high level summary.
Write that down. We're doing things.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
write it down saying we're doing things.
Yes, thanks.
That's
Yeah,
gonna
like-
be my statement every week or every month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
you
a
could
nice
glance-
record. It's a nice record of what's, going on, and it serves that we are discussing things and taking them seriously.
Yeah, if you just review the minutes, you can see it's pretty high level.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
And then if you're ever gonna miss a meeting, just make sure Lisa knows, or one of us will take over as secretary for that meeting.
Okay.
All right. And committee membership discussion. Lisa, do you want to share the committees as they are?
Yes.
We'll need a new finance committee member, since Deborah will be leaving, and we had talked about doing a strategic planning committee.
Is there like a
and then
party planning committee? I'm really good at planning parties.
It sounds like recruitment is your deal. Yeah, that's pretty much a party.
There you go. Okay. Ms. Johnson, I do not have that one digitally here. So
Oh, okay. All
I'll
right.
have to just share it with you. Currently on the finance committee, we have Ms. Burns and Ms. Johnson. So we would need to replace Ms. Burns on the finance. That meets monthly prior to the GC meeting, usually meets at 4:15 to 4:45 and reviews the finance packet and reports in detail. There may occasionally be an extra meeting during budget season, but that's not always the case. So it's just that commitment on the same day of the board meeting every month. On the audit committee, which we're not planning to make any changes to, we have Ms. Jensen and Mr. Padilla. On the nominating committee, we have Ms. Johnson and Mr. Padilla, and they review new applications for the GC. And then we currently still have the academic committee, although we haven't been meeting. And right now that's just Ms. Jensen and myself. And then we discussed adding a recruitment committee and a strategic planning committee. The one we have to fill right now is a spot on the finance committee.
And you don't necessarily have to know anything about finance. You know, it's helpful because you kind of know how to balance your own budget and have looked at, another organization's finance, but really it's just, logic. Does it make sense?
I'm
So,
happy to do that. That's not my background, but I'm happy to do that.
Well, it's interesting because sometimes it's better to have a non-finance person on a finance committee because they tend to ask very common sense questions. And oftentimes they get to the heart of things better than people who have a background,
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with Ms. Johnson that you don't really have to have a finance background to make a contribution there.
Okay, I usually race home and try to get home by I can get home by then. So I think it's all up to you, but I'm happy to do that.
And then if there are committees that Lisa Barenberg and Alize, if there are committees that you guys are interested in, I'm sure we could do a shuffle, because I think this puts Debbie on 3 committees, does it? No, just 2? Oh, okay.
You're
Oh,
right.
it is 3?
You're right, it's 3. We just haven't been doing the academic thing, so.
Just tell me where you need me to be, in all honesty.
When we spoke earlier, when you joined the board, you had some recruitment ideas. I think that
And
could be
that's essentially party planning, so yeah.
No, because it's not decorating for, like, I don't know. I like decorating and being creative.
It's very creative.
I can just be wherever you need me to be, and I will make it work and make it be successful.
I think the recruitment committee would be great.
Yeah.
And if we decide to do strategic planning, I would definitely be interested in that. If we decide to do that, if we don't, let's see, audit, let's see, nomination committee, academic committee. You said that wasn't running, and that was it. Yeah. So if somebody needed me on a different one, that would be fine too. But if we wanted to try to get the strategic planning committee started, I'd be willing to be on that one, or the recruitment committee. But it seems like your committees, I was trying to write it, you were going by it fast, is like a board member and then somebody else, right? Like Lisa, you were on a few.
I'm on all of them except
you're
the
on all of
nominating
them.
committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Lisa Barenberg, that makes a lot of sense to have you on the strategic planning committee.
Yeah.
It'd also be nice to have you on the academic committee if we're rerunning that.
Yes.
I think the reason that we didn't, that we kind of stopped is, we lost one of the members and it lost energy.
Well, we had started, we were trying to meet so that we'd have stuff to discuss, and we were just starting to do that, and then she was not able to continue, so.
Yeah.
What is the academic committee?
We get together and we're just discussing, well, she was very good at having, she was very well versed in teenagers and psychology and neurology of teenagers and how they learn. And so just looking into different ways and things to Wouldn't you say, Lisa, to investigate to improve education, like possible tutoring committees by peers, because that seemed to be really effective for students in this age group on both sides.
Augmenting what we're already doing.
Supported
Yeah.
by their peers, and also, I mean, it was for the peer tutor and also the tutee that it was beneficial to have students, and also talking about brain breaks and the importance of having that during the day, so that because they only learn in sections of time and things like that. So just
So
what would you
overall
say?
ways to improve the academic experience for our students and their outcomes.
Yeah. And so we had left it where we were looking into the different ways to get more hands-on like science-y stuff and lab stuff outside of the smart lab. And looking into the research that supports that. So that's kind of where we were.
And what's the strategic planning one?
Like long-term planning for the school. So having a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, or, not just recruiting students or academic planning, right? But like a strategic vision.
Didn't that also include the timeline, like we should check this off this month and having a schedule? Was that part of the strategic plan, or is that something different?
Is that the facility plan you're thinking
Yeah.
of?
No, you're talking about, I think Mrs. Jensen is talking about just the board calendar of when we address things throughout the
Okay,
year.
that's a separate issue.
But I think one of the things that a strategic planning committee might address is strategic issues like, do we have enough students for this facility? If Renaissance were to close or go somewhere else, what would we do? Should we approach Renaissance about their plans and possibly merging with them? They would be looking at sort of strategic issues like those high level things as opposed to the day-to-day. Is that a good explanation?
Great explanation. Way better than me. Thank you.
I'll stick with party planning.
Well, it seems that the committees are not action committees. They're kind of fact-finding committees yes. So in this
Mhm.
case with the Renaissance, coming up with different ideas about situations, and it would be then you discuss that with the board later, but is that my understanding?
Yeah.
I mean, that
I
is my
think
understanding. Is my understanding correct, I should say.
I think my hesitation with volunteering for other committees right now is that I'm almost done with my master's. And right now, like for the next 5 weeks, I don't feel like I can like do anything else. But it doesn't need to happen within the next, 5 weeks, right? This is a year-long commitment, and after that's done, it would be fine to pick up something else. So I can do wherever we're missing somebody.
Well, it seems like the only ones that are required are the audit and finance committees.
That's
Mhm.
correct. And the nominating committee is required in our bylaws, but that's only when we recruit new board members, which at this point in the year, we would not want to, because we have a full board, we wouldn't want to recruit anyone new until after July 1, because they'd be held to the training requirement in such a short timeline.
Yeah, right.
So right now, then I have that Deborah Jensen would step in the finance committee, that Lisa Berenberg would be interested in the academic committee, that Elise Hodges would be on recruitment, and Lisa Berenberg would do strategic planning. I'm on all of the committees, and I'd also ask that if I can talk with staff members and see if I have staff members who might be a good fit for some of these committees as well. If we can just leave that as an open, that I can add a staff member without it coming to the board.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
It also feels like we should increase the number of board members just so that we can have people on these different committees, and
Right.
also
Yeah,
like
I
when
think
there
we'll
was
start
training.
recruitment for that in July and August as school starts
Right, I
up.
understand that, and
and
that's
add it
very
up.
wise to do that after
Yeah,
the training.
or
Yes.
June. The kids start July 1st.
Yeah, we could start in June and nominate in July, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you, Miss Jensen. It's nice to have some extra members too for to spread out that committee membership and lighten the load.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets more
And
people involved.
yeah, and if any of you know anybody who would like to join the council, the GC, of course, let's get them an application. So
Yeah, because you're right. That was
awesome.
a good point. They could still join a meeting, learn about it, and apply, and just not have it effective until July 1.
Okay, all right. So, I minimized my screen here, so I wasn't looking at the agenda. Okay, so it sounds like we only have one for the recruitment committee,
It's
which
all
is good.
I got
Yep.
that.
Yep. And strategic planning, Lisa, that was you. Were you gonna join that one as well, Debbie? I don't remember.
I
Does that put you on
wasn't
4
going to,
committees
but
then? Don't, yeah. Okay. Well, let's keep it as is then, like Lisa summarized. Okay. So, if I could have a motion to adopt the committee membership as Lisa summarized.
This is Anthony. I motion to approve the committee membership as Lisa summarized.
In a second,
this is Deborah Jensen. I'll second.
and a vote.
Eileen Johnson,
Aye.
Anthony Padilla,
Aye.
Deborah Burns, aye. Lisa Berenberg,
Aye.
LSA Hodges,
I
Deborah Jensen.
Aye.
Wonderful. Okay, and the last item for development.
All right. So K-12 did get the finance training that they had provided to you in November. When did we do that? But they got that added, and so the board tracker was updated. Ms. Johnson, you're complete. Mr. Padilla is complete. Deborah Burns, you still needed policies and procedures, but you're going to be excused from that now.
That's how much I hate policies and procedures. No, no, that's really not because.
Ms. Berenberg, you have 4 of the 10 hours posted. You may have progressed further. That's all that's posted.
No, I tried, but for some reason my account seems to be gone. I tried to log in and it didn't, and then I tried to have them send me. So I'm going to try again on Saturday and see if there was just an issue with the website, and that's why they didn't send me a new password, or I don't know. So I'm struggling right now with the training website, but I will make sure that I get on it because I got to get this off my plate. I hate having things hang over my head. So
Yeah.
Do you need my help in getting passwords reset or anything?
I'm hoping not, but if I fail again with interfacing just with the website, then I wondered who I went to. So I could call you and have you help me have
I'll send you an email with the contact at CSD. I have no power to enable that for you, but I know the person that does.
Right. So
And it might be worth reaching out tomorrow or the next day and just inquiring, is there an issue with my account? And then it might actually be up on Saturday, but Saturday they won't work. So.
Yeah, I wondered about that. I wondered, and I'm like, how come this isn't automated? Why can't I do it on a Sunday? And I thought the same thing. So I'm way ahead of my hours this week. So Friday, that's actually a really good idea. I can't do it tomorrow, but Friday I'm pretty much off all day. So I will address this on Friday during work time. So that way, if I have to call somebody, there'll be somebody at the other end of the phone. So yeah.
Awesome.
And then my goal was once I got on, I was just going to jam through all 6 hours. No breaks in case this happens again.
Nice.
Okay, and then LSA, yours is showing 2 of your 10 hours, and again, that's all it shows is completed. You may be further along. And Deborah Jensen, you're complete.
Yay! I have to say, I feel like I don't know if the sessions you're doing are the ones that are what would you say? The independent ones, but
The Zoom or the video?
yeah, because the ones that we did, that Eileen, I felt like he breezed through those. They were
He
so
was
fast.
so good. He was
Yeah, they were super
entertaining. He kept
fast.
my attention. I could even just sit in my car during lunchtime and take the training. Yeah.
Yeah, but
It
it
was
felt
nice.
like they were half of the, not quite, a little over half of the scheduled
It's
time.
like 30 minutes of the
yeah.
scheduled time versus I feel like those online courses took me longer than an hour.
Yeah, and I felt like you really had
Yes,
to pay
thank
attention and
you.
get quizzes, and there were no quizzes on this, and so I
Mhm.
appreciated it. So
Well, see,
FYI.
as new members, you have to do the Canvas course, as you know, but see, there's hope. It gets so much better next year.
Oh, you do have to do the
These things
Canvas
are
courses. I'm sorry, Lisa. I'm sorry, LSA, to bring that up. I
It's
apologize. There
amazing.
will be better.
I swear they're taking more than an hour.
There,
Yeah.
I felt like they took a lot, and you had to jot things down, and then they quiz you at the end, and you have to
Yeah.
make sure you're paying attention
Yeah.
to the terms that they're using. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
Well, LSA, if you get stuck in your account, if you have technical issues, you let me know. I can hook you up with the right people. And a reminder, I will tell you your official deadline is June 30th, but I'm asking for your deadline to be May 31st because then you're
Mine's
just.
April. I created my own deadline for April.
Yeah.
I like that.
Good.
I'll get there.
Okay.
All right, announcements, any comments?
Well, it says governing board member comments, but can I also put on the record a huge thank you to Ms. Burns for her dedicated years of service
Yes.
leading the
Yes.
school.
Yes,
Very much so.
I've learned
You've
so
been
much from you.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yep,
Oh,
thank you very much.
you are a driving force.
I really am still a huge supporter of the school. I'm taking on a contract that's going to require a lot of travel, such that I wouldn't be at most of the board meetings, so that doesn't really help you any for me to be on the board. But as I told Mrs. Mora, I'm always available for anything that might be helpful. You know,
Ooh,
it's
what
not.
if you joined the strategic planning committee as a person of the
Community
public?
member.
Yeah, community member. Just
Well,
a thought.
you
Sorry.
know, yeah, I mean, let's see how this contract sizes up. And Lisa, if you want to just get together and chat about strategic planning for the school, I'm happy to do that. And then if it turns out, yeah, I'm taking on a client that is going to take my committed hours to like 125 of what I have available with travel. And it really is, it's very impactful to the state. So I feel like I need to give it my all, and I wouldn't be doing a very good job for the board because I'd be checked out. But I remain a huge fan, and I know it's in great hands. So much has been accomplished over the years, and what remains, I'm confident will be done. The enrollment will climb, everything will be fine. But yeah, I'm still a huge fan, and I'm just so grateful that there's such a capable board. So I don't feel like I'm leaving the school in the lurch by stepping away.
Well, you've been amazing.
You have been. Thank you for all you've done.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, Lisa, thank you for bringing that up before we adjourned.
Does
Yeah.
this mean Deborah's not going to be at the next meeting?
It
That's
does.
right.
Right.
End of April?
Her
Yep.
resignation is effective March 31st. So I will have some paperwork to sign that I have to send to CSD for the change in the officer position and the removing a board member. So Ms. Johnson, keep an eye out for that. That'll be coming in the next couple of days, so I can get that submitted on time. But again, since we still have a full board, that doesn't put us in any danger to finish the year. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And our next regular meeting then is April 30th at 5 p.m. Except, Ms. Jensen, I'll see you at 4:15.
That's right. I need to
Or maybe
remember.
I think on budget, gosh, on budget cycle, we usually meet a little bit earlier, like 4 o'clock. Well, let us
We'll
know, Lisa, if
communicate
we
as
have
we
to.
get closer, if we need to have an additional finance meeting or change the time, just to work through budget
Okay.
items before we bring the whole thing to the board.
Okay, sounds
I
good.
might be running in if it's at 4, so I'll try to get that covered and get in.
That's
But
what I
yeah.
do, leave work early. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, it is 6:31 and we're adjourning this session of the Governing Council meeting.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Stopping the recording.